Welcome to EmpowerHER Radio, the space for powerhouse women ready to step into their next level of abundance, purpose, and personal freedom. I'm Dr. Corey Winn, a high-performance coach, doctor of physical therapy, philanthropist, and business consultant. I help ambitious women align with their highest calling, expand their wealth and impact, and create a life that feels as good as it looks. If you're a high-achieving woman who's built success yet finds yourself craving more alignment, more purpose, more ease, you're in the right place. Here, we bridge the gap between ambition and fulfillment. Through transformative conversations and proven strategies, you'll gain the courage to step into the fullest expression of you. Build a powerhouse business that aligns with your expertise and divine gifts, and lead your life, both personally and professionally, with unshakable confidence, worthiness, and compassion. This is about expansion, legacy, and owning your power unapologetically. You already have everything inside of you to create a life of unlimited possibility. It's time to unlock it. Welcome to your next level. Let's dive in. All right. Today, I have an incredible guest who embodies the courage to pivot, the resilience to reinvent, and the wisdom to guide others in doing the same. Shannon Russell is a television producer turned entrepreneur, career transition and business coach, and exit strategy expert. After spending over 16 years producing content for major networks like MTV, VH1, TLC, and more, she made a bold move, leaving the entertainment industry behind to step into her second act as a business owner and coach. Shannon built a thriving Snapology franchise while prioritizing her family, and now she's on a mission to empower women to leave unfulfilling careers and step into businesses that bring them joy, purpose, and financial success. If you've ever felt stuck in your career, questioning whether it's time to make a change, this is a conversation for you. Shannon is here to share her wisdom, insights, and strategies she's used to help women like you confidently take the leap. Shannon, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited for our conversation.
I would love to first just have you tell us how you ended up here.
What a question. I started as a little girl. I just wanted to work in Hollywood. I wanted to be a television producer, and I was lucky enough to accomplish that dream. I was a producer for 16 years, and then I started having a family. And
Mhm.
after the birth of or right around the birth of my second son, is when I had this epiphany that I didn't want to be away for first birthdays and Halloweens and all of it anymore. And I wanted to figure out my second act. So I just kind of put that to the side and said, you know what? I accomplished it. Let's figure out what's next, and got into entrepreneurship.
I love that so much. I think so many of us have an idea of what our future is going to look like. And then we have kids. And that was me. As a physical therapist, I was always going to work as a physical therapist. I was going to work full time. It wasn't going to be an issue. And then it was holidays and weekends and birthdays and Christmas. And I thought, no, this is not what I want to do.
Exactly.
So you talk about leaving your dream job. How much courage did that take?
Oh, I don't know if I would call it courage. It was just a lot of mindset work and just really turning inward and asking myself for the first time, probably in my entire life, was I happy?
Mhm.
I fulfilled enough? And then it was that mindset shift of saying, I'm not going to grieve that part of my career. I'm going to celebrate it and say, I accomplished it. How many people can say they accomplished their dream from when they were five, And
Right?
I kind of started looking at it like, you know what? I'm still the same person, and I'm going to
Mhm.
try a new adventure. But it took time. It took me about a year in between of like doing missteps and trying different things to see what really fit. And then finally I said, I'm going to produce my own life. I'm going to take my
Oh, I
past
love that.
experience and figure out what I can do next. So definitely not easy. And it took some time, but it worked out.
Well, and I love that you talk about the mindset piece because so often we've lost our ability to trust ourselves.
Yeah.
So, what did you do firsthand, mindset work wise, to be able to get there and know that you had the expertise to do this, but embody that expertise?
Yeah, because I was struggling to do it by myself. My husband, all of my friends were in the entertainment industry. So I really was in this silo with a 3-year-old and a newborn.
Mhm.
And I just remember trying to have little conversations with myself of like, are you sure this is what you really want to do? And then I started doubting myself and thinking, what can a television producer do anywhere that's not on a television set somewhere? And then I started really diving in, opening up a notebook or a journal, and I started just doing like a deep dive in all my skills and my experience and what I've done in the past and looking at it and saying, you know what? I think these can be transferable to other options. And I started just diving into those options and saying, can I see myself there? Is it going to be flexible for me to be a present mom? And really
Mhm.
just, I think it was having my non negotiables, my priorities in check too, that helped steer me in the right direction.
Absolutely. And so often, I don't know about your clients per se, but for mine, it's, well, what do you want? And it's crickets because no one
Yes.
has asked them in so long. So I love that you pinpoint the need to prioritize because I think globally, we all have this idea of, well, I want to prioritize my family. I want to prioritize my relationship with my spouse, but we don't know how to do that. So, what was that first step? What was that thing that you did to really recognize, okay, what really are my priorities? What does bring me joy?
Well, I think in leaving that career, because it wasn't a career that was toxic or that I hated, I loved it. I loved every aspect, but it was this one like moment running in heels in the Times Square subway station, trying to get the bus back home to the suburbs to get my 3-year-old from daycare that I
Mm-hmm.
just realized none of this was really worth it to me because that was my day every day of
Uh-huh.
stressing, of getting the eye rolls from leaving my team early and then rushing to get back and then getting home and being exhausted and having to do it all over again. So I just started realizing like I don't want this anymore. I need to try to figure out what else I can do and really starting to look outside and say, okay, I can easily go back and get a role back in television,
Right.
or I can figure out what else I can do. And that's when I took a job, a 9 to 5 job close to home, thinking that that was how I can help contribute to the family. And then started a master's degree online at night, thinking, well, I'll become a teacher because that's stable. I was grasping at straws, Corey, just
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to do what I thought I needed to do for everyone else. And then realizing soon that none of those were what I wanted. They just didn't fit. And that's where I think I got the fire under me to be like, I've got to figure this out. And I want
Hmm.
to do it in a way where I know I'm not going to be stuck on a bus about to miss that pickup at daycare and missing all these important events. And it just made me know that my kids were my priority at the time and I just needed to figure out what I could do that would be flexible around their schedule, at least for the foreseeable future.
Well, and I want our audience to hear right now too that you gave yourself permission to fail. You gave
Oh, yeah.
yourself permission to take a leap. You gave yourself permission to recognize, okay, I did the things, but I don't have to stay there. And so many of our listeners are in that place of, okay, but I do this. This is my expertise. What do I do with it now? Now, how do you help them overcome those obstacles of fear or the limiting beliefs or anything that's in their way stopping them from doing what they want to do?
I love that question because I think that first thing we think, we know we're stuck, we know we don't feel aligned. And the first thing we think is, I don't want to disrupt what I have going on. I don't want to cause chaos in the family. And you're thinking about everyone else. And my method of coaching is to do it in a strategic and methodical way. So I always say, I don't want you to quit tomorrow and figure it out. We're going
Uh-huh.
to figure it out now in a very safe way and we're going to learn before we leap. So you're going to research, you're going to feel confident so that you can make that move when you're absolutely ready. So I know
Mm-hmm.
there's other people who say just put a date on the calendar and call it quits. But I think we have so many other people depending on us that it's not very realistic, especially for a mom who's got a family or a partner or older parents to take care of, whatever it is. So I think that it can be done very strategically. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I work with clients, we start to talk about those non negotiables and those
Mm-hmm.
priorities. And then we look at your skills and we start thinking about, well, what could you do if you could do anything? And then we start researching those roles to say, is this day to day of becoming a baker really what I want. And once you
Right.
start doing that research, you might realize, you know what, that really doesn't fit me. Now that I know more about it, I don't want to do that. Let's go on to the next option. And you really get to learn more about yourself and know which direction you want to head in once you do that research.
Well, and I think there's so many clients out there too who really have a joy and a passion, but when you put a price tag on it, it's no longer fun for them. So there's that hobby space of like, these are the things I really enjoy. And these are going to be the things that provide for my family. And I love how you distinguish between the two because it is. We do have bills we have to pay, we do have things we need to do, but prioritizing and clarifying all of that is so incredibly important. When you work with women who maybe have identified themselves by their job for so long, how do you help them create a new identity?
I think it's just really thinking about all of the titles that you've carried in your life, maybe partner or mom or sister, neighbor, friend. And you realize like all of the titles we have are so all encompassing, but they're all you. And it's the same with the job title. So I had to look at my job title that I worked so hard for and say, you know what? I'm going to try something new, but that is still a part of me. And
Mhm.
Corey, I always say I could go back tomorrow if Oprah called and produce for her, right? If that
Absolutely.
you would try it too, wouldn't you? But yeah, it's like that's still a part of us. We can still go back and do that anytime. And I think that eases some of the stress and pressure and fear because it's just a part of us. And now we're going to take that experience and that title and add it to our lifelong resume and try something
Mhm.
else. But that we are so much more than that. And really, in trying something else, whether it's entrepreneurship or shifting to a different field, we're taking that experience with us. And that makes us an even better candidate for that next act because we have grown so much since we chose that career at 20, right? We are a different person and we should be proud of all the titles that we have and realize that we really it's all about us and not the title before or after our names.
Right. Well, and you think about too how many people have tried to force this career and make it work, but you giving them permission to explore and then walking alongside them as they're exploring to find the thing that lights their soul on fire
Mhm.
is huge because I want our listeners to know you don't have to be stuck in a job that's sucking your soul. And you can also be in a job that you absolutely love that's not working for you. Both of those things can be true, and you don't have to settle for either side. Um, so many of the women that I work with are afraid to pivot and are afraid of what their families might say or what their friends might say. How do you help them kind of create those boundaries and allow them to figure out their own choices without the noise of the world?
I love that question because for me, and maybe other people won't agree, but I say if you feel like you want to change, keep it close to your chest. Start
Mhm.
doing that research because research equals confidence. And so
Right.
before you tell your spouse or your friends or anyone else, especially your coworkers if you're still working, keep it to yourself because once you start doing that research like we said you might realize that that's not the direction and you want to start over and think of a different path. And so once you do that research and you really start going, nope, this feels right, this feels like something I could do or I at least want to try, then you say, all right, you become confident and then you're willing to have those conversations and put it out there. But if you just leap and say I want to open a jewelry business, then other people might look at you like, "Why?" And I know from experience because I feel like my family, friends had an intervention almost with me of, "Why would you
Oh,
leave?"
oh yeah.
You know? Yeah,
Been
exactly.
there.
So yeah, so it's not comfortable, and then you find yourself, really kind of going back into your shell and saying, "Whoa, what's wrong with me? Am I?" And you second guess yourself, and I think, so maybe that's why I like working with women who kind of feel like they need that accountability partner and they need that support before they tell everyone and really broadcast it to the world because I want them to feel confident, like they can do it, and sometimes you need that outside person to be objective, don't you think?
That, and I think too, so many of us have lost the ability to trust ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
And really deep down have that inner knowing of this is not aligned for me. Over here it is, and allowing ourselves to trust that intuition. I would gather to guess that you help them with that as well, mindset piece, the learning to believe in themselves again.
Oh, yeah, because especially when you're starting a business and maybe you've thought of the name and you started the website, you don't even have your first client or customer yet. You're already thinking when you have a meeting with someone and they don't book with you that something's wrong with you. So it's
Right.
like there, you're gonna for a while and when you start a business or even start in a new field that you're not where you should have been, especially when you pivot from a career where you might have had that success.
Right.
So there's a big mindset piece in just saying, stay the course, give it a try, and worst comes to worst, you go back to where you were and you now know and you'll have no regrets at the end of the day. I think
Mhm.
that's the biggest piece to think about is that we get this one life. We don't want to regret never trying.
Right. Because you'll definitely fail if you don't try.
Yes.
You'll never even know what you're capable of. What um what would you say to a client who's maybe questioning whether they have what it takes or not?
Yeah, to give yourself grace that everyone deserves a chance to at least explore it. And that's why sometimes I say, give yourself 15 minutes a week, right? 15 minutes. And that can be over your coffee when you're sitting down. You know how much we sit down at our desks in the morning, whether in the office or at home, and we just kill 30 minutes by scrolling and, doom scrolling and just like doing other things. Use that time wisely or your lunch break or after the kids go to sleep and just explore the options you're thinking about. Just give yourself that time to really think or turn inward. And I think that time and that grace you're giving yourself can open up a lot of thoughts and a lot of permissions you might need to give yourself to really start taking little baby steps towards that, whether it's a side hustle or just dipping your toe in a little bit to figure out if what you're thinking is a potential option for you. But
Mhm.
that grace piece of just saying, I'm allowed to give myself those 15 minutes once a week. Everyone has that, or an extra few minutes in the car before you go inside when you're in the driveway. Just those few minutes to really ponder your own thoughts, because otherwise, we're everyone else's go to person, and we have to kind of bring it back to us sometimes.
Mhm. I would love to also know a little bit more about Snapology and what made you go in that direction, because I have a kiddo who loves STEM.
Oh my gosh. Me too. That's where the idea came from. So I was literally sitting on the floor one night with my baby and 3-year-old, and my 3-year-old was just building, building, building with Legos. And I was like, you know what? I want to be home with them. I'm figuring this out. I'm trying to figure out my second act. And I was like, what about opening a business for kids and teaching them STEM education and robotics and coding and all the fun stuff? And I started researching a business. This is when I was in my produce my own life mode. And
Uh-huh.
I found a franchise that was doing just that. And I was
Mhm.
like, you know what? I've never run a business at this point. Let me opt into a franchise and get those extra. Um, yeah, and I just felt like, why not, as a first time business owner, buy into a franchise and have the support from the corporate office and the marketing materials and all of the lesson plans and everything, kind of a business in a box for me. And it was the greatest decision to jump into that and then be able to bring my kids to classes with me. And I learned a lot about business and grew that business really quickly in the first couple years. And I was like, I think I'm going to start another business and help other women figure out how to make this pivot because it worked for me.
I was just gonna say, and now tell us how you pivoted from that to where you are now with a book and a whole other career in coaching.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, so it was customers of mine at Snapology that were asking me, "Oh, you must have been a great teacher. What grade did you teach?" And I was saying, "No, I was a producer." And it would spark that conversation. And then I started thinking, well, there's really a need. So I opened my coaching business and was really aiming at helping women mainly. And I opened my podcast at the same time and just started doing episodes. I'm really just interviewing women who have started second acts because I thought that if listeners could hear that, they would feel if she can do it, I can do it. So I really wanted it to be an inspirational podcast for others to kind of get some ideas. Yeah. And so it's been about 3 years now with my business. And I decided to write a book a year ago.
I
I wanted to take everything that I teach and put it into a book so that, people who are not my clients can get these resources and really see how they can go from where they are to where they want to be, and also get those inspiring stories. So I share my story of my transition and other women's second act success stories. And yeah, so it's been another big undertaking that I'm really proud of that. Yeah, it'll come out in May.
That's awesome. Well, and so many of us just need to give ourselves permission. And sometimes it takes that first woman, that friend, that person you saw on TV,
Yeah.
anybody to say, well, hold on. They pivoted their entire career. If they can do it, I can do it. And that's so often, I mean, most of who I've worked with and a lot of my colleagues are in healthcare, and healthcare is changing all the time. And a lot of times it comes with the more than 9 to 5 and holidays and
Mhm.
weekends, and just giving them the permission to recognize their expertise in all these different fields. Could go into holistic medicine, could go into a business for helping for inclusive language and marketing. I mean, I have friends who are doing so many things that 5 years ago we were in that lane of
Yeah.
PT, OT, speech, MD, anything. Um, what do you think was the hardest thing that you did when you took that leap, or the biggest obstacle that you personally had to overcome?
It was it was probably the financial, because I left a career that was really lucrative, and I sacrificed. And at that time, I started saving. I had been saving, but not for this. I didn't know that when I had the baby that I was going to not want to go back. And we can't afford to be a one income household. So I knew I needed to work. And so for me, I often tell clients, start saving, start figuring out your finances early. Because for us, I was forced to take that 9 to 5 job that ended up being very toxic and not at all a good fit. And I was just trying and grasping at those straws. And then plus, once you start a business, that first year or so, you are just taking any money that you make and investing it back in the business. So you're not really bringing home a significant paycheck for quite some time. So I think that's the hardest part. Um, is that stretching of things and making things work, and that uncomfortable feeling when you're leaving something that's stable to go into something that's not necessarily stable and going to give you those rewards right away. So that was the hardest part. And I think anyone needs to hear that, because it's the truth in any new venture, whether you have to take that pay cut at a new job in a new field, or if you're starting a business, don't you
Mhm.
think?
Well, and the fact that you took those leaps in that time, were you investing in yourself at all? Like, did you have any coaching or mentorship during that time?
No, I didn't. And that's exactly another reason why I started my business, because I was like, I
Mhm.
was so lonely. And I think if I wasn't me, if I didn't have this self awareness that I feel like I was given by my parents, and this like, the glass is always, half full. And I'm just
Mhm.
a very optimistic person, that I think if I didn't have those traits, I would have gone right back to TV.
Uh-huh.
And so I wanted to be able to give other women who maybe just, I don't know, are ready to like call it in before they even get started. I wanted to be able to be that hand that they could hold and help them get through those leaps that I had to go through, and those hurdles, because it obviously is possible and it does work. It's just that uncomfortable period you just have to get through.
Well, and the importance of investing in yourself now
Yeah.
and encouraging your clients to do the same so that they don't have to work so hard. I think a lot
Yes.
of us have pushed and grinded and hustled for so long, and now have mentorship and now have coaching of our own that helps us recognize, okay, we don't have to do it that way anymore. And
Yes,
if
I feel like
you can
yes.
help their clients do that, like, don't make the mistakes I made.
Right. Let me save you that stress and time and money. And I see it from the other side. I've had a coach for many years now. Like, I have my own coach. And I always say, you want a coach who has a coach and is always getting that extra education and getting that support as well, because I can use that to help my clients as well. And now I see the value in it so much that, yeah, I wish I had that 8+ years ago.
Well, and it is incredibly valuable. I grew up on the East Coast, ACC, college athletics, and you think about basketball teams have coaches. I worked with women's basketball in college. There's a swimming coach, there's a running coach. Why wouldn't there be a business or executive leadership coach? And why wouldn't you have that? I mean, I think of being in leadership positions, both in the hospital or in private practice, and other friends who are just out there swimming, almost drowning because they don't have a mentor or a coach to deal with and help guide them in the direction. I think so many of us, at least I feel this way, have kind of failed forward.
Oh, yeah. I'm right there with you, absolutely, and yeah, and you don't want other people to have to go through that because 'cause you're right, you're just investing in yourself so you can get there faster,
Mhm.
and not as lonely because it can be lonely when you're transitioning into
Yeah,
a new act in life.
absolutely. Now, you talked about your book, that it's coming out in May. Where can we get it? What all is it going to be about? I know you mentioned earlier that it has a lot of your information in it, but for our listeners, I just want them to go to the shelves and just get it now. So,
Thank you so much. Yes, it's at startyoursecond.act.com. And I have a free resource. It's a second act journal where you can get your ideas and put them down on paper. But the book is really a resource. I have action items at the end of each chapter. And there's a lot of play on the entertainment industry. So I talk a lot about some crazy TV stories. And I have a lot of like celebrity inspiration kind of success stories in there. And I play a lot on producing your best life. And I share my main strategy that I work with my clients, which is my three-part second act strategy. So I walk you through everything there. So I feel like it's a coach in a book, kind of. It just has everything you need to feel empowered and really to feel like you can take that next step and that you
Mhm.
should because we get one life.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of people are looking for a smaller resource because they haven't had a coach before. They
Right.
haven't been taught to invest in themselves. So taking that first step and saying, okay, I can use a book and a workbook. And then that also opens your expertise up to them so they can say, "Oh, I need way more than this. I
Mhm.
I I need coaching. I need mentorship." So
Yeah.
where else can people find you?
Yes, I'm all over social media at Second Act Success. And my website, my main website is secondactsuccess.co. And I have my podcasts and ways to work with me and free resources and the book and all of that there as well. The book is called Start Your Second Act. So it's all in the same family.
I love it.
Mhm.
So many of our listeners are just looking for that courage. So I so appreciate you coming on today and helping open that door for them, helping give them permission. Is there anything that we haven't talked about? Anything lasting thoughts that you have that you want to make sure that they know about?
Well, I like to talk a lot about checking the boxes in life. That's another one of my mottos that, you can have this first act and you can love it or hate it, but you can check the box on it and you can try something else. And it's kind of like your life's to do list. So I always try to live my life that way of saying, what else do I want to do? It's not a bucket list, it's a life's goal list. So,
Mhm.
what goal do you have next? And it's okay to check the box on this thing and have something else to look forward to that you can start working and challenging yourself to go towards. So I just encourage everyone to check all the boxes in life and take the adventures.
I love that so much. Check all the boxes, write your lists, figure out what you want in life. Shannon, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you, Corey. This was so much fun. Thank you.
Absolutely. As we close out today's episode, I want to leave you with this. Your next level is already within you. If you're feeling that pull for more clarity, more alignment, and more courage to step fully into who you're meant to be, this is your invitation to take the next step. Whether you're an entrepreneur ready to scale or a woman standing at the edge of something bigger, the path forward starts with trusting your desires, owning your worth, and leading with your inner knowing. This is exactly what I offer: private VIP coaching, and where I guide women inside the 10K Club and 50K Club through consulting with She Sells and Superhuman Selling to help you gain clarity, step into aligned action, and build a life and business that reflects your highest vision. If you're ready to explore what's next, let's have a conversation. Book a free call now at www.empowerher.radio. corywinn.com/free call. I can't wait to connect with you. Talk soon.